I'm sorry if you would.
No, Senator Steinmetz is not here if you wanted to move. If you don't, that's fine.
Oh, yeah, that'll help. She's not coming to the meeting?
She's sick.
Did
ill with-
she leave a proxy?
She did not. She was in a hurry.
Gotcha.
I think she was.
I was already confused.
That's the last thing we want from you, is confusion. Thank you, sir.
All right, well, welcome to Labor Health Social Services, Wednesday, January 29th. Appreciate everybody being here. We have some guests in the room. We don't often have canine guests in the room, but they are behind the dais, and we're very pleased to have them. Thank you. We have two bills before us, Senate File 130. Senator Rothfuss will be presenting that bill, and he has a committee meeting, so if we get into a long discussion, he will probably depart. And then we have the second bill, which is Senator Hutchings' bill on the service dogs. And probably at that point, I may have to leave because I have a bill in another committee as well, and Senator Scott will take over. I will leave a proxy. For the roll, please note that Senator Steinmetz is excused. And for those online, excuse me, for those online, I have folks that wanted to testify on Senate File 125. It was noticed yesterday, the notice was changed and announced also, and then announced again today that Senate File 125 will not be heard today. It will not be heard today at the request of the sponsor, Senator Steinmetz. It'll be heard at a later date, and I'll take her guidance on when that'll be. So I know I have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 folks that indicated they wanted to testify on Senate File 125. We will not be taking that bill up. So with that, anything from the committee? Clayton, anything on your side? All right, we'll get started. Senator Rothfuss, would you please present Senate File 130?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, appreciate the opportunity to present Senate File 130, Emergency Assistance, Immunity, Mental Health Services. Mr. Chairman, as you know, we have an important Good Samaritan exemption from civil liability in statute that allows currently for persons rendering emergency assistance to be exempt from civil liability and then calls out the conditions for that. We see that on the bottom of page 1 going on to page 2. This is in circumstances where a person who in good faith renders emergency care or assistance and then without compensation has this liability immunity. This legislation adds what could potentially be clarifying language, but certainly necessary language, that this would include assistance for a mental health crisis. This was legislation that was brought by the mental health community to provide that clarity, recognizing that there was uncertainty related to whether or not this type of care could be provided under the same Good Samaritan exemption. And then there's conforming language effectively. We see that through the B paragraph as well, where we're adding or mental health crisis for services rendered during medical emergencies. We see on line 15 additional conforming language or services during mental health crises. And then finally on the bottom of page 2, including mental health services or services provided during a suicidal intervention. So it's conforming language consistent with the spirit of the Good Samaritan law to ensure that that protection exists for immunity for those acting in good faith as Good Samaritans trying to prevent a mental health crisis on equal footing with traditional emergent health crisis.
Thank you very much, Senator Rothfuss. Any questions for Senator Rothfuss? Questions for Senator Rothfuss? Seeing none? All right.
Actually, sir,
Oh,
I
yeah.
have like about 20. Just joking.
20 questions. That'll be for the next panel. Thank you. All right, Ms. Simeo, please.
Mr. Chairman, Lindsay Simino with the Wyoming Behavioral Health Alliance. Just to give you some history on this bill, we are the ones that brought this bill forward. We have been working with the governor on the governor's behavioral health workforce task force for the last few years, coming up with new innovative ways in order to meet and expand mental health access and get services to our rural communities who may be lacking in providers. Some of the different innovative ways that we have seen increase over the last few years has been peer support groups with veterans, with law enforcement, in faith-based communities and churches, as well as in colleges and college campuses. What we noticed was when suicide prevention trainings were offered or peer support trainings were offered, that this was a deterrent. Would I be civilly liable if I interacted with somebody who was in a mental health crisis and they did die by suicide? If that is how that interaction ended, would I be liable? The other issue that we saw was unneeded emergency department admissions. If somebody is in a crisis, but de-escalation did occur, however, the person who was rendering the suicide prevention intervention is still anxious about being civilly liable, are they sending people unnecessarily to the emergency room? And so that is why we drafted this language with the hopes that it would be an incentive for those within the community who are wanting to do this work in, say, a lay position to be able to support those in their communities who are experiencing a mental health crisis, but also have that same protection as somebody who is providing CPR to somebody who has been in an accident. And with that, I stand for question.
Thank you very much. Questions? Questions? Saying no questions? All right. Thank you very much. No questions. And further testimony on the bill? Anyone else who wants to testify on the bill, please come forward. And I don't see anybody on this bill online. Do you? Okay, thank you. Mr. Thompson, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Alan Thompson. I'm the Executive Director of WASCOP, which is the Wyoming Association of Sheriffs and Chiefs of Police. We're here today just to speak in general support of this bill and the impact it might have on services that we are also providing through peer support and other entities that wouldn't necessarily involve an on-duty officer at the time, where whether it be a retired officer, off-duty officer, or any of the other numerous community members that might be in a position to successfully intervene in a mental health crisis, and anything that can be done to help those processes happen across the state, we're in full support of. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. Former Chief Thompson, or former Sheriff Thompson, I'm sorry. Questions for the Executive Director? All right, thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you,
to see you,
Mr.
Sheriff. All right, further public testimony on this bill? Further public testimony? Is anybody online that I don't believe there is on my list? All right, public testimony is closed. Committee, what's your pleasure? Moved by Hutchings. Thank you. Discussion on the bill. Amendments to the bill?
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Scott.
a few years ago, there was quite a movement to train people in mental health first aid. And as I read this bill, those people would be covered. I don't know how many of them, whether that movement is still going on or whether it's petered out, but it was very useful for a time, and I think this would cover them.
Yep, thank you very much. Good reminder of some of the work that's been done in the past and done in our communities. Further discussion on the bill, amendments, seeing none. Clayton, would you call the roll on Senate File 130?
This is a roll call vote for Senate File 130. Senator Crum.
Aye.
Senator Hutchings.
Aye.
Senator Scott.
Aye.
Senator Steinmetz.
Excused.
Chairman Barlow.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that is 4 aye and 1 excused.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Senator Rothfuss. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator.
If you'd like to go out there. All right, we have another bill up, and this is Senate File 147. Yeah, and anybody who would like to speak, you're welcome to come forward. Thank you very much for being here, Lindsay, Alan. All right, thank you for being here. Thank you for all your co-proponents here. Senator Hutchings, would you like to tell us about your bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it, and I'm going to call it our bill because you're the one who asked me if I would be willing to take this up. And having to, Senator Hutchings, Senate District 5, presenting to you Senate File 147, Service Dogs Training and Crimes. You asked me if I would like to run this bill. I have neighbors that train service dogs, so this was right up my alley. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll go quickly through the bill. It's a lovely little bill, an act relating to the protection and rights of blind and disabled persons, specifying that the rights and obligations applicable to service and assistance animals apply to service and assistance animals that are being trained. And we're increasing the penalties as well. That's page 1. Page 2, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, line 9 is an addition to our statutes, as is lines 9 through 13 and 18 through 20, where an assistance animal shall be include an animal that is being trained to work, provide assistance, or perform tasks for the benefit of a person with a disability, or to provide emotional support that, and this is the operative word, not the little fluffy dog that you put on your lap and say they're the comfort dog or your emotional support dog, but this emotional support dog has to alleviate one or more identified symptoms or effects of a person's disability. And then we go down to add this kind of same language in accordance with our ADA laws. Service animals shall include a dog that is being trained to do work or perform tasks for the benefit of an individual with a disability. On page 3, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, you see an increase in the fine and the years that you can be put in jail if you knowingly, willfully, and without lawful cause or justification inflict or permits or directs any animal under his control or ownership to inflict serious bodily harm, so on and so forth. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that's the bill. Quick, easy. I ask for your favorable consideration, and I'll hand the mic over to Michelle.
First, Senator Hutchings, any
You don't have
questions?
any questions?
Any questions for Senator Hutchings? Senator Crum?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I fully support the concept of this bill. My only question, and I'm going to use the good senator's word, fluffy dog. How do we ensure, as I ride on airplanes and different things, I stand in line and I hear people actually say, well, I just got them certified so that I don't have to pay the flying fee, and they use it for different things. I can take them into the store and that type of thing, because I just don't want to leave them in the car, dogs or whatever in the car. So how do we ensure and I'm going to use that word again, fluffy dogs, from becoming a part of this process? I am fully supportive of the process. I just want to make sure that we are doing the right thing for the right service animals.
Thank you, Senator Crum. So I think we have some experts that probably can talk about some of that certification and differences, et cetera. But Senator Hutchings, you go ahead, and then we'll go to your colleagues.
Chairman Barlow and Senator Crum, that's exactly what I was going to do, defer to the experts, because I'm too with you. Sometimes you can't distinguish the facts. So hopefully they'll help us out a little bit. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Senator Hutchings. Please introduce yourself and share your testimony. Thank you.
Michelle Warner with K9s for Mobility. I am a co-founder and CEO. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee, for allowing us to speak today. I am hoping that you received my previous paperwork that I sent in that included just a little bit about us. We were incorporated in 2012, K9s for Mobility, and we are placing dogs for people who have physical disabilities, such as visual impairments and mobility disabilities. We do not address any psychiatric service dog things, which is what that emotional support that Senator Hastings or Hutchings, sorry, is talking about is when you say the word emotional, people automatically go to emotional support dog. And I had asked her about that word, if that was gonna be a trigger word for people. We could change it to psychiatric, which might be better. Psychiatric service dogs do have to perform a physical skill test for a person who has a mental disability. And so that is what I wanted to tell you about is we are accredited by Assistance Dogs International. We are the only organization in Wyoming that is accredited by Assistance Dogs International. There are 167 organizations across the world that are accredited by Assistance Dogs International, and we go through that every 5 years to make sure that we are upholding the standards and the ethics that have been set forth by the industry. I myself am also an accreditation assessor, so I travel all over the world making sure that all those organizations are still holding up those standards. I was able to send you guys an attachment, which is the training standards for trainers. I have 2 trainers with me here today that both have dogs in training, which of course do not have public access in Wyoming. And then I also have a client with us that does have public access with one of our guide dogs. One of the things that is so important is Wyoming has, always been kind of at the forefront of the equality state and women voting and things like that. But we're a little behind when it comes to assistance dogs because there's only 3 states left that don't have this on their statutes. So it's Wyoming, Washington, and Hawaii do not have access for trainers. Now we have successfully been able to train 57 of our dogs are working for somebody, making a difference in their lives, helping that person to be independent, and 35% of all of our placements are here in Wyoming. We've been able to do it without public access, but it comes at a price. We do have to ask. If someone doesn't want us in there, they can kick us out, and we have to be okay with that. Otherwise, I think we have worked even harder to ensure that we're upholding those standards of Assistance Dogs International and the assistance dogs across the industry to make sure that our dogs are never asked to leave because of their behavior. We have a 7.5-month-old puppy here that we could take anywhere and he would not embarrass us because we are so strict on our standards of these dogs. And we've trained them from the time they were 9 weeks old to be out in the public eye and to be around other dogs and distractions and things like that. So one of the things that comes up is, how important is this public access? We could go to Colorado and train, we have access there. We could go to Nebraska and Montana, we have access there. But even though we're here in Wyoming, and we do make placements other places, we always give preference to Wyoming residents when they apply for a service dog from us. They go to the top of our list. And we want to be able to train the dogs where they're being placed. And it's important that we have worked with the hospital, we've worked with many places in Wyoming that are like, bring your dogs in because we know you are accredited. We know your dogs are gonna behave. But if there's ever that one person, that one business says no, and then I have to tell the person getting that dog, I can't train your dog in that environment because they won't let us. That's how important it is. And I think we've all seen dogs misbehave in public. Those are not my dogs. Those are not our dogs. We also teach our clients, and Darlene can tell you that when she was being trained with her, this is her second guide dog from us, that we ensure that if your dog even starts to misbehave, you get out. You do not stay in there. Our puppy raisers are volunteers that raise our puppies for a year. I mean, can you imagine a year you're giving your commitment to this puppy? You need to be able to get it out, right? And so we can get them back in for training. And for them to be able to expose them to those things, they know that if my puppy starts one little barking, you better be out, is how it is. So what I wanted to ask you, Mr. Chairman, and the committee here today, is that there are standards in place for dogs in training. I cannot say what other places do. I can tell you what Canine Traceability does and what ADI ensures that we hold up those standards. But I don't know that this bill being passed or not being passed is going to stop people from faking it, because we passed the fake service dog law in 2017 when I was in the exact same position, and it still hasn't stopped the fake service dog. So I don't think that people training dogs should be held responsible for the people that are still faking those things. So I would stand for questions.
Thank you very much. Ms. Warner, right? Warner?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Senator Scott has a question.
Mr. Chairman, as I read the bill, what we're doing is enhancing the penalty from a standard misdemeanor to a high misdemeanor for somebody who causes their dog to attack a service dog. My question is, do we have any experience in Wyoming where we've dealt with anybody low enough to do that sort of thing?
Go ahead, Ms. Warner, if you'd like to.
Mr. Chairman, through you, we have had multiple of our clients that have had their service dog attacked or almost attacked, that it has caused that person to fall, that person to be guided into something that was very dangerous for them. Thankfully, no one's been hit by a car or things like that, but several of our Cheyenne residents have had that happen to them. And if that person, you know, if Darlene and Scout are walking down the street to come down here or come to the library, which they do often, and someone has their dog and lets their dog go and it hurts him, she loses her independence. And each one of our dogs costs us $25,000 to replace. We do not charge that to the client. We just have a donation, but it costs our organization $25,000 per dog that we put out a year.
Thank you. Follow-up, Senator Scott?
No.
All right. Further questions? Further questions? Please, Senator Crum.
Just one quick question for Ms. Warren would be, you, as I understand, you would not have a problem if an amendment was made to change the word emotional to psychiatric.
Go ahead,
Mr.
Ms.
Chairman,
Warner.
through you, I would applaud that.
Thank you.
Yes, Senator Hutchings.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly, but I just give us caution because I was the same way when I approached the lawyers, Senator Crum. This is the verbiage that's already out there, and if we change it, they said that we would cause a little confusion. But I'm thinking maybe if we put psychiatric support, let's see if it blows, see what happens.
Yeah, thank you. So I think, you know, there's a federal law nexus to this as well. And I think we want to be consistent with whatever that is. And I don't know what it is, so I did not bring that reference. Ms. Warner, would you happen to know, there's several CFRs, Code of Federal Regulations listed here. Is psychiatric used in that federal law, or is it emotional? Or if you don't know, just say, I'm not sure, or I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I can't quote it word for word.
Nope, that's
It does talk about dogs having to perform a physical skill task that directly mitigates a person's disability.
Okay, all right, thank you. Further questions? Further questions? Anyone else like to testify on this in the room? Here for emotional support? Sorry, that wasn't very appropriate, my apologies.
They're the example.
No one else in the room? All right, so we'll go online. I have Adrienne. And, Michelle is here. So, sorry, Michelle is here. I guess I just have one. Yep, go ahead, please.
Hello, Chairman Barlow and the Labor Committee. My name is Adrienne Unival, and can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am, please proceed, thank you.
Okay. I am an individual in Wyoming who is living with MS. I won't say I suffer from it, but I know the importance of service animals because having a dog in my house that can go and retrieve things for me, that can brace and stand so that I can get off the couch comfortably is very important. We lost our family pet that I had essentially trained to do certain tasks for me in the home. And I didn't quite realize how dependent I was on the dog to do certain things for me. And so when I started looking at how to replace a service animal, and since my balance has gotten exceedingly worse as I've been living with this for 20 years, I started looking into what it would take to train my own. And I found the same thing that Michelle was talking about. We are one of 3 states that doesn't allow public service access. And when you think about puppies and the fact that their socialization period is so short, it's from that 4 to 12 weeks. And this is where they are highly receptive to new experiences and their brains are developing rapidly, and they're learning about how to interact not only with humans and other dogs, but they're also learning to interact with the world around them. It's very, very important to allow them to have that access to being in the environment where they're going to be working and living. And so I reached out, and I wholeheartedly support this because I would like to see people with disabilities not have that hurdle of the expense that it does take to be given or help raise money to train. Not saying that what Michelle does is not important, because it's super important. Michelle, please don't misunderstand me. I'm just saying I don't have that kind of funds. So I want to be able to have that ability to train my own service animal, because the other benefits of training your own animal gives you the ability to customize the tasks that your dog does to your specific needs. It also allows you to develop that bond with the dog as you're training it. It allows you to have the flexibility to train at your own pace and your dog's pace, instead of trying to say, okay, maybe these are the milestones I think it should be hitting, but for us, it might not be in that time frame. It also allows me to have a greater understanding of my dog's behavior and be able to help them work through things so that I can say, no, you're not behaving, we're leaving. Or to know that when I call them and recall, I know what their recall is. The other thing about having a dog placed with you and essentially adopting a dog is something kind of like that 3-3-3 rule, where you have like 3 days when you get a dog that's new to you, you have what's called a survival mode. And then you have the next 3 weeks of where they're like settling in, trying to get used to a routine. And then finally, it takes them about 3 months for them to feel comfortable and be at home. But if I have that animal from the time that it's allowed to be weaned from its parent, I know that dog. And that to me is a huge benefit, to be able to say, yes, I know what my dog does. I know how my dog's going to behave, and I know what to expect from them. So I really appreciate you taking the time to hear this important issue and having consideration for those of us that would like to train our own, because that is allowed under the ADA law, that owners and people with disability are allowed to train their own animals. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Thank you for reaching out about this issue. I think it was the original email that we received was from you, so thank you very much. Questions? Any questions? Seeing none? All right, thank you very much. Anyone else online? Raise your hand. Anyone else in the room? Senator Hutchings, do you want to close this out, or Michelle, if you have any final comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to let you know that Michelle has a final comment.
Yes, please. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just took a minute to look up the ADA exact wording for everyone
Yeah.
so that I could do that. It does say a person with a mental illness to take a prescribed medication calming a person with PTSD during anxiety attack or performing other duties.
Okay, well, we're going to stick with something shorter than that.
Stick with it. Keep it
Thank you for
simple is
looking
my-
that up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else? Saying nothing. All right. Committee, we'll close public testimony. Thank you. What's your pleasure?
I'd move.
Oh, I think Senator Crum beat you to it, Senator Hutchings. Senator, any discussion on the bill? Any discussion on the bill? Amendments to the bill?
Mr. Chair, I would, unless for some reason it's not legal or whatever, I'd like to move on page 2, line 12, the very first word, strike emotional and add psychiatric in there.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Discussion on the proposed amendment? Senator Scott.
Mr. Chairman, I have reservations about that amendment. It seems to me that emotional includes the psychiatric, but if you say psychiatric, we've narrowed it, and I'm not sure that's really something we want to do here.
Okay, further discussion. Senator Hutchins.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, on and against as well, in that I tried to make a change to the word alleviate and put mitigate, because I thought that was a stronger word. And I was told that this is the language in the law, and if we change it, it could cause confusion, and that's the last thing we want to do, is confuse anybody on this respect. We want to get these people the help they need and move forward,
Okay,
despite the bad actors.
right, thank you. Senator Crum, I don't know that you're getting much.
I'm not
support for that. So would
getting
you
mu-
just withdraw that?
I'm not getting much traction here, but I would like to say, I want to make sure we give credit to those qualified dogs, and we don't give credit to the unqualified service animal. And with that, I would withdraw my motion.
All right, motion is withdrawn, thank you. Thank you for the discussion. Further discussion on the bill, amendments, further discussion on the bill or amendments? Seeing none, Clayton, would you call the roll on Senate File 147?
This is a roll call vote for Senate File 147. Senator Crum,
Aye.
Senator Hutchins,
Aye.
Senator Scott, Senator Scott,
Aye.
Senator Steinmetz,
Excuse?
Chairman Barlow.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that is 4 aye and 1 excused.
Very good, thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here. Take a tour of the rest of the Capitol. They need some training, or some of them don't need training, sorry. Yeah, that'd be great. Absolutely. So just for the committee, real quickly, we'll have 2 dental bills up on Friday for sure. I'm still working with Senator Steinmetz about rescheduling her 125. I think we have 5 bills left after Friday, or let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 bills left for next week. So anyway, that's what we have for next week, and we have 3 days next week's of meetings, so we should be in good shape.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. We are adjourned.